with these guidances, and then it's up to the states and the territories to implement them as they see fit, when they see fit. So, I don't know, Jay, what do you think about lifting the mask mandate for fully vaccinated people to go around outside without masks?
I mean, okay, I mean, you know me, for the last year of this show, I've always kind of said, like, you know, I believe that from a marketing standpoint, there is merit in saying, you know, should we guilt people into getting, you know, vaccinated? I don't want to go like the shame route, but it's like, okay, you know, celebrate the people that have made the choice, that are doing, you know, taking the vaccine and everything like that, and make it like a popularity thing, because that is all social media is predicated on right now. It's the FOMO approach, right? Fear of missing out. I can see where they're going with that psychologically. I think it'll probably work. Does that mean I would personally do it? No, I myself, I mean, I don't mind sharing, like, I'm fully vaccinated. I intend to wear a mask, you know, for a long time. And
yeah, because it's like, how do you know? How do you know who's really vaccinated and who's not?
Yeah.
And then if you are fully vaccinated, you can still catch COVID. You can still spread COVID.
Yeah, and I am admittedly a control freak, and here at KUM, there's a lot of environmental things that, like, I know, and I'm working with people, like, even in this room. Yeah. I trust the two of you, and if you guys said you're not going to go out like this weekend and everything, I don't have to be worried about, you know, were you running around like a mask, you know?
I mean, Jay, I love you, man, but I don't know. I mean, you're a good-looking dude. I don't know what you got going on after dark. But I have a feeling you're around a lot of people.
No, not at all.
I know. So, but I'm just saying, I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, I mask up around you because I don't know. You could be the wildest, like, crazy guy. Wild and crazy guy. But now going crazy.
I also wonder, is this going to have a...
Same thing with Joe, sir. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. And he could give me COVID. I could give him COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found out a good friend of mine in Texas, she's got COVID now. And she said she's, you know... She's ill. I mean, she's not like terribly. So, you know, get well, Melissa.
And actually, so when I went walking the dog in Tumon, it was like pretty hot, and so I brought my mask in my pocket, and I was walking the dog down the sidewalk. But it's like crowded, you know, when you're on the sidewalk, because there's everybody now is running in Tumon or walking in Tumon or just doing stuff in Tumon. So I kept having to, like, move over to get people to go by. So after a little bit, I just put my mask on because it was just too weird. People were looking. I felt bad. I really did. I felt like when I go around with no mask, I feel like bad, like I'm being disrespectful to other people's space because I just don't know. You know what I mean? And I feel the same way when I see people without a mask. I mean, if they're running and stuff, yeah, fine, of course. Who wants to wear a mask when you run?
It's funny about this.
But I'm the guy who's like, going on, you know, just to be safe.
Stephen King would have a field day with this situation because he might say, ironically, if this CDC guidance, you know, like really takes off locally, not wearing a mask would be you wearing a badge of honor.
Well, like, because you got vaccinated.
Because I got vaccinated.
Right,
I did what was right.
But so the thing about it, too, is that there are people out there who never wore masks and were never vaccinated and just refuse to wear a mask because, you know, they're very logical people who think that wearing a mask is a mark of the beast.
Yeah. And now those people don't wear masks, and now we can't tell one from another. You know what we need? We need Predator. That's the kind of mask we need.
We just need a microchip. Let's get it over.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out this thing with the guidance like that Adaloop released last night with the graduation, because now apparently indoor is cool.
Indoors in, but it's, I believe, 4 guests per graduate.
Yes.
And so I wonder how much of a pivot this is going to cause, because I believe they were trying to do them outside.
Yeah.
Or they wanted to do them inside, then public health said, no, you have to do it outside.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, no, you can do it inside.
But
right?
you have to properly
of course.
Apply, and you have to submit your plan and everything like that. I mean, we are coming up on months when it's known to rain. Thank God last year that with all those drive-through graduations, the grad and go, I don't believe there were any rain during that week and a half period.
I get it. I think GDOE played it safe, right, with the grad and go, which is basically like kind of a drive-through thing. And then I'm pretty sure, guys, like I want to say, by next school year, of course, we're probably going to have like the old school graduation. It's just right there. We just got to push through. got to push through this cluster and everything that's going on, and stand up the recovery of the economy and get the federal dollars. And hopefully by this time next year, we'll be looking at this saying, God, remember when we couldn't have graduation, or remember when you couldn't get a haircut, or
it's of little consequence. But you know what? Since you were talking about students, you know what I just realized? For the last 2 school years, kids have not had the opportunity to have yearbooks.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's I mean, it's big when you're a kid. That's a major part of going to school.
Yeah.
Can you imagine taking like your graduation picture with you in your cap and gown and your mask on?
Yeah. It's the sign of the times.
Yeah. It's like
everybody who's graduating from high school now and the reunion 10 years from now, it's like all they're going to be talking about is COVID.
Imagine that, like, sir, put the, like, so Chris is like this, right? He's got like his cap and he's like, there at, the portrait place, and he goes, Chris Barnett, GW class of 91. He's got some like quote from the Smiths or something at the bottom, and he's got a mask on.
Right. Rosemary Laguagna says, I'll continue following the safety protocols. Yeah, and there is, again, that lag when the CDC shoots out a guidance, because we're still behind on the last one, which was, again, the CDC advising that fully vaccinated travelers shouldn't have to quarantine. But we're still, again, throwing fully vaccinated people into quarantine.
And because the CDC has issued now this guidance, right, does that also filter down to industry? So will your...
No, I think anybody who's like an employee serving a customer, of course they're going to have to still, because the guidance actually says you can not wear a mask outdoors, but not in crowded settings.
So now the question becomes, what's the definition of a crowded setting?
Yeah, and how different is that from what... I mean, if you're going around running, or people just don't wear a mask.
Yeah,
or,
we got the perfect person in the Zoom room to talk about what impact this would have on business.
Yeah, we got Mary Rhodes, Guam Hotel Restaurant Association, in the KUM News Zoom room. Mary, are you there?
She might be on the... Oh, there she is.
There she is. Hey, Mary. Yeah, what do you make? We'll just start there, because we're talking about the kind of the lag time between the issuance of some of these CDC guidances and the implementation on the local level. Because, like I said, we're still a couple back on the vaccinated travelers not needing a quarantine. What's your comment on that kind of thing? And then with this latest one about fully vaccinated people not having to wear masks outdoors in settings that aren't crowded.
Yeah, my only take on it is, I know that, public health and the governor's offices really want to get to that 50%, which I know we're just shy of it by 2000. And with the number of vaccine clinics being planned for the end of this month through May, no doubt we'll definitely get there in the first week of May. So I think that's going to be really the pivotal shift to where we can start implementing additional CDC guidelines, where we can start adopting that on Guam. For example, even seating at the table, right? It used to be 6 at a table. Now we can do 8, even 15 outdoors. Now we can go over. So that's taken a while for them to adopt some of those changes as well. But it's all had to follow occupancy and congregation settings too. Right. So it's a couple of different factors. But I really hope that we start implementing what CDC follows or announces, soon after, because it is confusing for some people. And I know that they do try to compare it, but Guam is certainly, in a different situation when our goal is really to get to that herd immunity. So definitely the 50% goal is certainly in reach right now. And I know that they're already trying to push for the additional ones with the July 21. And from my meeting with public health yesterday, it looks like they're placing that order for the month of May so that we can have, quite a big success in getting additional vaccines to get there through July.
Mary, we really have been kind of storming down this path to half because of the great demand that people have to want to go out and get vaccinated. But when we get all the doctors on here, when they talk about herd immunity and getting that 80% vaccination rate, they say that it could be a challenge to go from the 50 that we're aiming for to the 80, right? Do you agree, or do you think that, because the way I look at it, I think we're kind of running downhill, and I think the demand for the vaccination is so great that we could even hit 60 or 65% before we kind of like peter out a little bit?
I think that they're seeing a slight decline in appointments being kept, but also people going to the UOG site and even to the village sites. You know, just the other day when they had the GIGO one, I know that there were only 26 people that went to that, and it was a 6-hour operation.
Oh, wow.
We just had ours yesterday at the Hyatt, and we did see more than 600 people in 3 hours. So I think it's going to come down to the data of how many people are still left in the community, what are the ethnic groups that we need to identify, whether it's, you know, Chamorros, Filipinos, Micronesians, Asians. We need to really identify which groups are going to be the most important to target, which age groups, if they're working or not, and which locations, which villages are going to be the ones that we need to focus on. But that data is what they're currently looking at so that we can have more of a targeted approach.
Well, I had no idea that the numbers were down. But what do you make of the difference between the numbers, like you had said, at that one outreach where just GIGO, where just 26 people showed up, versus the numbers at the outreach you guys are doing, where you're getting hundreds?
Well, you know, UOG's been doing great because they've been vaccinating between 1,200 and 1,900 people, but they're still having like a 20% no-show rate. Our no-show rate is about 4%. And I think the difference is because you're going to the workplace where people don't have to travel so far. I know it's only Manila, but even then, a lot of people that we're seeing coming to our location, regardless if you're in the workforce or not, it is still open to the public. And so we're seeing a lot of northern residents come to our site because they're probably used to taking that drive every day to work. So they think Tumon is closer, even though Manila actually might be closer to them if they take back road. But it, like I said, you know, we're definitely, I believe they're looking at more of a targeted approach, and they're working with us on additional vaccine sites. I met with public health yesterday to see what we can do. Also, Department of Defense sent to Guam 12 vaccinators. And so we had 3 of them with us at our vaccine clinic last night to help assist and also to observe our model, which has a digital platform. And that can make the difference in making sure we don't have missed appointments. So we're really collaborating together to find a lot of those best practices as we continue to roll out more vaccine clinics. But GHRA with AMC and GRMC and Guam Army National Guard, I know our focus in the next month is, our request in is with AMC is to get about 4,000 additional vaccines, which would finish off our tourism industry for those currently still working. So we're really close to about 60%. So I know that you're talking about petering off and the general interest of people getting it. I think that there are still some people who are afraid of it, don't understand the effects, and that they're short term. But, you know, some of the recent clusters, we're hoping that that will serve as really incentive or motivation for people to go out, get vaccinated. They're seeing their friends, families, colleagues get it. And the side effects are very, you know, minimal compared to getting sick and transmitting COVID. So we want to make sure everybody gets vaccinated and is also educated on those side effects.
What do you hear, Mary, on because I don't hear any. I mean, I know I have a couple of friends who have the vaccine hesitancy, which I can understand because they have certain medical conditions. But what do you hear on your end?
You know, I talked to a lot of the employees who come in, and we had a lot of first-time doses yesterday, doses. And, our question was, why didn't you come to our four other on-site vaccines? And they wanted to see how their friends did, how their colleagues did, because they were really afraid. So it's like, you go first.
Yeah.
No, you go
You
first.
go, I'll just watch you. And then if you don't keel over or grow a third eyeball, then I'll go in.
Yeah, so it really is. Right. So if you think about how you're influenced, right, whether it's through your parents, your family, your friends, your colleagues, that really makes a difference. And so, my conversations with public health are really to get over that 50, 60% hump, to get to 80. We're really going to have to look at where we live and where we work. And specifically, those demographics are going to help, and geographic locations are going to help.
Right. Good point, Mary. Let's get into this Restaurant Revitalization Fund kind of outreach that you guys are doing. Just some of the bullet points from our conversation yesterday, Mary. When this application period opens up, it's only going to be for a 3-week window. After that, the opportunity is gone. We're talking about significant grants, not loans. This is the monies that you're not going to have to pay back, and significant awards for restaurants, from the smallest restaurants to food trucks to even some of the bigger ones, are going to be able to avail of this federal money. And you can use it to replace money that you spent on PPEs, lost inventory. And we'll just kind of get into it, Mary, because I know that you did a few things with Nestor, but I really kind of wanted to zero in on the new information that came out in the emails you sent after your interview in the morning. And then B, kind of just like the basics, the who, what, when, where, and why of this Restaurant Revitalization Fund program.
Sure. Since our interview with Nestor, we did have Ken Lujan on there from SBA, and since then, there's been a lot of onboarding going on with the Small Business Development Center, so that they could train. They have 8 consultants that can help out businesses. They generally help small business clients get through federal documents, federal loans. They do not only education outreach, but they'll assist you with the financial documents, and even with your submission in providing you guidance. So you should reach out to SBDC office at the University of Guam. But if you're interested, you can also join us for a joint webinar. We're having one with SBA, SBDC, together with the Guam Chamber of Commerce and the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce. And that is on May 4th, up this Tuesday, May 4th at 10:30 a.m. I provided the flyer to you, Chris and Jason, so you guys can put it up on your website along with all of the documents. We're going to be talking about the process of enrollment, the sample application. So right now it is still a pilot period, so everybody can understand the process in submitting their documents. There's a pilot site where you can look at a sample application form, so you can start preparing all your documents and pre-fill these documents so that you can understand exactly whether or not you are eligible, and also exactly what you're eligible for, because you have to do some calculations with your 2019 and 2020 losses, as well as time loss with closure. And so, as you mentioned, Chris, it's mortgage obligations, it's rent, utilities, maintenance, even during construction to accommodate outdoor seating. You can also add the PPE, cleaning materials, anything that you've done with regards to preparing for COVID, for reopening. And if you've remained closed, all of your, or even during our closure, all of your lost inventory, and also new inventory that you've had to include for the preparation of reopening. You also get supplier costs if there's any additional expenses you've had, even labor costs and operational costs. I know that one thing that some people have mentioned are, they've had to add staffing in order to follow the health and safety protocol guidance. So it also covers paid sick leave for employees that you have to cover if they've had COVID or had to be quarantined or isolated. So this is a very different grant, which we're so grateful for as part of that American Rescue Plan, and National Restaurant Association was behind getting this in. They've lobbied for it. And so it's $28.6 billion. You can apply for this grant you don't have to pay it back, but it is between $5 to $10 million per company. There are some priorities as far as if you're veteran-owned, women-owned, you do get a priority. Underserved populations and hub zones, which Guam qualifies for as an island, as a whole island, really puts you ahead above the rest. But it is very key that you understand this all before, because as you said, it's only going to be offered during a very limited time for 21 days. And so that's why they've done this kind of beta testing with a sample application so everybody can prep for it. So once it opens, it's first come, first serve, but the priorities will be given to those companies who meet the eligibility criteria and those special set-asides for women-owned, veteran-owned, and all of the other categories.
Right, but just right off the bat, Guam is underserved and hub zone. We're going to have some kind of priority placement, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're veteran or women-owned, you just get additional. The other thing SBDC mentioned to me is that you don't need to be in the SAM federal registration system. Some companies aren't unless you're already doing federal contracting. So they understand a lot of businesses, especially outside of restaurants, are, food trucks, bars, lounges, bakeries. They may not necessarily be doing federal business today. So the SAM federal system is not a requirement, but you do still have to fill out your paperwork. And that's what SBDC and SBA offer their services for that.
Right.
So we'll be able to get through all of the details next week during the webinar, 10:30 Tuesday next week. But as you mentioned earlier, it's not just restaurants, it's food trucks and all of that, but also even lounges, brew pubs, anyone who's an alcohol producer. I know we have some local companies that do produce here locally, manufacture items. So they're all eligible for this. And if you are worried whether or not if you're not a brick and mortar, if your company is still independent and part of like a hotel, let's say Easton at Weston, they could still possibly apply even though they're within a bigger structure, bigger facility. They just have to check with SBDC and SBA. Also, franchisees, they're not completely off the list. There is a franchisees listing, and I think I gave you the link for that as well to see whether or not you are a franchisee that's already approved by SBA, because they are eligible to apply.
What about caterers, your Chodi Marts? Would they be eligible?
Yes, they're all eligible. So Chodi, anyone who manufactures food has a license for it. Like you said, caterers, bakeries, they're all eligible. And so this is probably one of the most generous grants I've seen come out of the federal program, especially with things covering, lost inventory and other items that have not been covered to date.
Mary, the sample application that you sent over, and just some of the parameters, and that it's such a short application period and that there's so much advanced outreach before the rollout of that application period, tells me that it's a little complicated. I ran a sample amp by a friend of mine who has a small restaurant in way over their head, right? And so that's where the Small Business Development Center and SBA comes in. They're standing by to kind of assist people who may look at these forms and be looking at a foreign language maybe.
Correct. And then the other thing is SBA just released the foreign language flyers. And so that is all available, and it has a specific website, because I don't know if you remember, but SBA did have issues when PPP and IDLE came out and their site went down. So what they've done is they've had a separate site just to help assist people with foreign languages so that they can download and translate all of the information that's on the website or on the form immediately with a translator. And so I've sent you that link as well, so that you can share that on the KUAM news site online.
Mary, so I think we've covered the eligibility. Any idea of the range of grant awards that'll be given out?
Again, it's first come, first serve. It's $28.6 billion. You can apply for $5 million up to $10 million per company, but it does have to equate to your losses between 2019 and 20. So that's why it's really important to work with a financial advisor right away at SBDC. Become a client of theirs. You know, they offer many, many services. GHRA has been working with them closely for even the forgiveness portion of the PPP loans. We've had them talk about this. They've come on to our membership meetings to assist people with other programs, and they are geared up to help with the RRF as well.
But Mary, if you want to apply for less than 5 million, you totally can, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's no minimum, right? And the cap is just, yeah, there's no minimum because you have to justify your amounts. And so, and you have to be in operation. I've been contacted by dozens of companies already, and we've been sharing the information. And so you don't have to be a member of GHRA for us to help guide you and point you in the right direction. So we've connected some of these companies already with SBDC and SBA. But if you have to do those calculations and you have to qualify with eligible allowable expenses. And so there are some calculations you have to complete. You should talk to your financial advisor or accountant or accounting service if you use a service to start preparing for this. The application is already there, even though it might seem complicated for those who already do this on a regular basis. It should be easy to do because, again, like I said, they're quite generous. You just have to have all of the documentation. And by the way, you can use the funds from 2021 through 2023. So you're going to receive the full amount in advance once you're approved, and then you have up until 2023 to exhaust all of the funds, and anything you don't use by 2023 you have to return, but you don't pay back any of the used amounts. So again, they're also generous there by allowing the full year and a half for you to use the funds and also have future expenses.
When does the actual application period start?
They had the training this morning as well as tomorrow, and I'll send you the recorded link because I registered for both, and so that way you guys can have it as well. But I believe that they said it's going to be this weekend. They haven't launched it yet because they don't want everybody to go to the site just yet. It's not live. So there's a way for you to sign up for notices at the SBA site, specifically for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, if you want to receive those notices. But they are planning to announce it after this weekend or for this weekend and beyond. And so everybody we're just prepping everybody to know where to go, how to get their information, and uploaded into the sample form so you can just begin to prep all of the documents you need so you can quickly apply. And the webinar next week will actually be with SBA and SBDC, and they're going to go through those technical steps and technical questions.
Yeah, for everybody listening right now, the address that Mary's talking about, restaurants, plural, restaurants with a S, .sba.gov, and that's the one that Ken Lujan, our buddy from the Small Business Administration, was telling everybody to see. That's chocked full of information, details the whole program, has a very good FAQ section and everything like that. Everything you're going to want to know is restaurants.sba.gov.
Right on, Mary. So let's see, we've covered the who's eligible, the what's up for grabs, the when. Anything else that we need to kind of touch on?
Again, it's just getting out to all of our communities. Yeah. GHRA is going to be reaching out to the different associations like the Chinese Merchant Associations, as well as the Korean Association and our Japanese groups, just to make sure a lot of those business owners are also understanding that, all this is available to them in their languages if English is their second language. But GHRA, Guam Chamber of Commerce, and the Guam Women's Chamber were joining together so we could share this with all of our members. But really, the individuals that are going to help you with that process, the application, and give you guidance on that financial advisory is really SBA and SBDC.
Sounds like we have a singer back there. Okay, Mary. So again, you want to give us the info on the vaccination outreach that you're doing? And then we did have a comment here. Will your industry require vaccinations for employees?
I think that, the industry as well as probably government of Guam they're going to start looking at ways to incentivize people, right, in how to, in getting vaccinated so we can get to that 80%. Right now, it's not regulated, it's not required for on the job, but who's to say COVID, at some point it won't be treated like PPD or TB testing, where you need it to be in certain positions. So right now, I think some employers are, very sensitive to this, and they know that they can't require it as of yet, but they're encouraging everybody to go. They're also encouraging you to go while you're working. Some of the employers, just like GovGuam is. And so I think that at some point, some employers will require for you to be at the front of the house, in those key positions servicing guests, you will need to be vaccinated. But of course, as you mentioned earlier, you're still required, because public health guidelines still requires for you to wear a mask while you're servicing guests. And so that's going to be really important. But I see probably employers making some changes that if you're the front desk at, let's say, a teller at a bank or retail salesperson, cashier, or even sales assistant at a car dealership or front desk reception at a hotel or a server at a restaurant, that you will at some point be required to be vaccinated. And I know that that's still being looked at legally. We've reached out to the Employers Council. We have a couple of board members that are in that group, and I know that they've been discussing it. And some markets have been in the States have been discussing whether or not you can require it as part of the job. So I think that is in already happening at some level, but it's not something we've taken a position on. I've been talking to the Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM, to see whether or not that's something we should discuss as well in an HR level. But right now it's not required. Public health is not requiring it. We're encouraging everybody to get it, but I could see that happening in the near future, similar to PPD testing.
Yeah, I think they should incentivize it too and just start giving us money to get vaccinated.
Well, I like, Mary, how you brought up that, because you had a wonderful webinar, what was it, 3-4 months ago with the Society for Human Resources, and, that and a whole bunch of other topics came up. And the one thing I'm still wondering is, of course, like when it comes to requiring vaccination, people might have moral qualms. They might have like ethical or even like, things about like, I want to invoke my HIPAA rights. I don't have to tell you, right? But for new hires and going forward, as capitalism, returns, will a prospective employer, are they within their rights to actually ask somebody who might be working there, have they at least had a negative test?
Well, you know what, actually Health and Human Services, the HHS, the federal government, they made some updates to the HIPAA rules, and employers need to report that to public health. And so that is covered under HIPAA, is testing, but also vaccinations. So that's been updated, and I believe we sent that link out to our membership together with SHRM on at least regarding COVID-19 vaccinations and testings, that there are some things that are waived with HIPAA because it is a public health requirement to know that. But with regards to jobs, again, it's just really a recommendation for now, but I could really see it going the way of requiring it. Same with schools, right? They require PPD tests.
Right.
And so if you're going to be required, if you're going to opt to go face-to-face, they may require you to get a vaccine in the future, if not already, as long as they administer it to children.
So, Mary,
and by the way, I think the CDC is looking at Pfizer for 12 to 15 soon. And so they're going to be possibly allowing that at some point, which Guam will follow that lead as well. But with regards to the vaccination, you can get out of it for religious reasons and for medical reasons, but then that's usually supported, right, with documentation.
Could they possibly treat it like almost like, because I've heard some people are like, I'm afraid to actually ask a prospective hire or
can an employer or prospective employer ask, hey, have you been vaccinated?
But I mean, you already asked for, and you require people to have police clearance when you work there.
Yeah, that's different.
And
Right, but there are laws written in place for that to allow for it, right? So there isn't anything in place with regards to COVID-19 except for what HHS allows, which as long as the information is being used to report it to public health, let's say for contact tracing, right? So with some recent clusters, they had to ask those questions for contact tracing use. And so you're covered under HIPAA for that purpose, as long as it's reportable to public health.
Thank you, Mary.
So
Gotta
in
run.
that instance, you're covered.
Right on. Appreciate it. So the 2021, the new employers set of questions. What are your pronouns? Have you been vaccinated? You're cool. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you guys for always keep everybody updated and for loading the RRF information on your site as well. We want to encourage everybody to go out and at least apply for it. It's great for the economy, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so please take advantage.
So many of those coming during this pandemic, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. Seize the day. Quick break, and we're back on KUAM TV next, right here on The Link.
Make it through the week with Monday. We got your 6.
At 6 a.m. with The Link on Breeze 93.9 FM. Bree and I connect you with all the latest news and information you need to know to start your day.
Then check back with Guam's news leader at 6 p.m. for the day's top headlines with KUAM News Primetime.
From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and everything else in between with KUAM Digital, we got your 6. Good morning, Guam. Good morning, Marianas. Good morning, Micronesia. Good morning, world. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Half a day